I love that you're tapping into self-love because that is, I mean, we have the same name, Sammy, but we
Yeah.
might as well be called self-love because that is our full brand over here. And I just think we need to go there with self-love and really understanding any practical advice
Mm.
of falling in love with yourself first and coming from a place with so much self-compassion to know you're so worthy of someone else seeing you the way that you see yourself. But when you need to like recalibrate your own worth, how do you start that process?
You have to like yourself before you love yourself.
Mm,
You actually have to like yourself, and you have to treat someone, you have to treat yourself like someone you like before you can treat yourself like someone you love. Because you can't go from, I don't feel worthy, I'm not enough, to I love myself, I accept myself. There's levels and layers in between of getting to know, liking, falling out of love, looking at the dark parts, the hard parts, the inner work. That's the journey we have to go on. And I think when we try and skip to self love, you get back to self hate as quick as you just jump to that stage. So, what does it mean to like yourself? First, to like yourself, you need to know yourself. Goes back to what we were talking about before. I always say to people, do you even know what you want to eat? Or do you want to know what you want to watch? And it sounds really simple and basic, but it actually does start there. It's like, if I'm left to my own devices, do I know what I want to have for dinner tonight? Or do I only know when my friends decide and when we all decide together? Do I know what kind of TV shows I like? Or do I only know what everyone else is watching right now? And then the deeper things, do I know what I like to do by myself? Do I know why I'm friends with this person? Do I know why I hang out with this group of people? It's all about why. And if you don't know the answer to that question, you don't really know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, how can you like yourself?
mm,
And so for me, it comes down to, I know who I like to spend time with. I know where I like to spend time. I know what I'd like to do with my time. I know when I like to do it. That shows that I've got to know myself. And now I'm choosing things that I like, which means I like myself more because I can see I make good decisions. You start to like someone, like if you think about liking anyone in the world, you like them when you think you have things in common.
mhm.
But that means you need to know what you like and what they like to have something in common. You like someone when they enjoy doing similar things to you. Okay, I'm only going to like myself if I enjoy doing things by myself. Then, as that liking develops, self love comes after there's a introspection into the parts of yourself you don't like. Love includes what you like and what you don't like. Love includes all of the good feelings and the flaws. Love includes all of the stress and the joy. So liking is about likes and dislikes. And then love is, I know both your likes and dislikes and I still love you. And there may be parts of ourself that we've ignored, avoided, pushed away, hidden from ourselves because we didn't believe they were worthy. So to get to self-love, I've got to look at them. I've got to bring them out. I've got to visit those places that I've avoided for so long. And I've got to go and meet them where they are. I've got to go reparent those. I've got to go sit with them. So that's the process of self-awareness to self-love. It goes self-awareness, self-liking, self-disliking,
Mhm.
and then self-love. And so there's multiple activities at each level of that journey that someone would need to do. And I don't think jumping to self-love is healthy because,
Mm.
and neither of you have done that. And so that's why you can speak to it so beautifully. But it does take some of that shadow work, that hidden work. And that's the hardest part about it. I mean, you look back and think, I wish I didn't say that. I wish I didn't do that. Maybe I messed up there. I let myself down. You got to look at all of that and go, no, that was all part of the story. That was all part of it. It wasn't, I didn't need to avoid that. I didn't need to hide that. That shame, that guilt that you had, you didn't need to hide that. And self love is really self forgiveness. Like there's so much self forgiveness that goes on with self love because the only things blocking self love are shame and guilt. Looking back in that dark space and thinking, I'm shameful of this, I'm guilty of this. And then thinking, but that's what I knew then. That's all I knew, you know? And I think I think Maya Angelou said it best where, when you know better, do better.
Mm.
But if you didn't know better, how would you have ever done better? And so focus on knowing yourself and others, and then focus on doing better for yourself and others.
I feel like listening to you, the amount of space you hold for yourself is so inspiring and so beautiful. Is there a mantra or something you say to yourself when you're having that moment of holding space for the part you have to now forgive, or you're returning to a point in your life where you're like, oof, I wish I would have made a different decision, but I did the best I can. Is there something that you like to repeat to yourself?
There's two things. One is, this only makes the story better. I love that
That
one.
makes it fun.
It makes it fun. It makes me feel, I used to say that to myself even when I didn't have a platform, and I'd be like, this only makes the story better. Like this
I
idea
love
of
it.
just like, yeah, like one day you're going to share your story. And if your story was all like, I got this right, and then I got this right, and then I got this right, and then I got this right, it's like, everyone's going to be like, oh, that's not interesting. And it's not true for anyone. And so reminding yourself that one day you'll share your story to help someone, whether it's helping millions of people like you are, or whether it's helping one person because it's your friend or your partner or your parent, your story is going to be shared by you with lots of people or a few people. And when you say this only makes the story better, you go, oh yeah, it's part of the story. And I have spent so much time studying the lives of people I love, and that's what their life looks like. And that's what gives me faith that I'm on the path. When you hear the Stoic statement of the obstacle is the way, it's because everyone who is living the life you dream of has had a life full of obstacles, and that is the way. So you're on track. If you're failing, you're on track. If you're stuck, you're on track. If you're detouring, you're on track. If you're pausing, you're on track. Like, it's all on track. It's just not what you imagined. And so you'll get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagined it. And I always like to repeat that to myself, that I'll get to where I want in life, just not in the way I imagined it. And it's my imagined path that is the distraction and what's bringing tension to the path that's unfolding in front of me. The path that's unfolding in front of me is reality. That's the path I'm being called to take. The path I imagined may look beautiful. It's what you started with the, if you want the universe to laugh, like, tell the universe your plans, like that idea. It's because, like when you tell the perfect path, did you get to build, form, or transform the way you wanted to? I'm sure it doesn't look like how you imagined it. When you're a founder, every founder has the best story, like, because founders didn't build what they set out to build. Netflix wasn't meant to be Netflix, right? Everything we watch, everything we consume wasn't meant to be what it is. And so the problem is when we go, no, it needs to be this way. So yeah, that one I love. Which one was it? It was Sony makes the story better. You'll get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagined it. And there's probably one more, which is, I'm here for a reason. And it's helped me because I think sometimes we wonder why we're here, and we try and make it about a person or a job or a title. So we're like, I'm here for my kids. I'm here for this job. I'm here for this. And it's like, but all those things change. When you say I'm here for a reason, you just start looking for reasons. There's something called the frequency illusion. I don't know if you've heard of it. You've all experienced it. It's when you're thinking of buying a red car and now every car on the road is red, right? Like you just see it everywhere.
Yes.
Or like you're thinking about something, like you're thinking about moving somewhere and now everyone mentions that place in a conversation, right? And you hear it everywhere, like Texas, 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 right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, it must be true. And the truth is, no, you just notice it more. Like the world hasn't changed. You just started noticing it. So because you started noticing the color red, you now see everyone wearing it in every car that's red. Because you're noticing the word Texas, you now hear everyone saying Texas. And I'm not saying that you're fooling yourself or you're lying. What it shows us is what you notice is what appears. So if you notice that I'm here for a reason, you will find reasons for why you're anywhere. But if you don't believe you're here for a reason, then you'll always notice where you don't belong. And we keep doing that to ourselves, where we force ourselves to notice where we don't belong, where we're not wanted, where we don't fit in, as opposed to noticing I can go to a place I don't fit in and still be there for a reason. I can be in a space that doesn't invite me and still be there for a reason. And that's why I exist. So I love that third one too.
That third mantra of I'm here for a reason, to me, just reminds me so much of why I love you and everything you stand for. And it's because it has to do with your purpose. And it's so inspiring that you've built a life of so much wisdom and purpose and inspired so many of us to do the same. What's something that you're personally working on right now within that?
In my purpose specifically, or
Yeah, or I guess just in life, like what obstacle, to use some of your language, are you working through right now or working towards?
it's a great question. Let me sit with that. What comes to mind as I'm sitting with it, and then maybe something will come to mind as I start talking, but something that comes to mind is just to not move with the external waves. Like when things are going good, you're your best self. When things are not going as great, you're kind of okay. Like, that kind of not letting those external waves dictate, not your mood, but dictate your way of being. And it's really interesting because when you say, what obstacle am I working on right now? I think a big part of it is it's really, I'm really sitting with it. So give me a second.
Yeah,
Yeah, take your
It's
time.
like, I
all
want to
your
give you a
time.
really good answer because I don't want to answer it. I want to really live it through it.
Mm.
So I think the obstacle I'm always working on and definitely right now is the purification principle. And what I mean by that is if I wanted to give water to everyone in the world, I'd want it to be the purest water it possibly could. I wouldn't want to give them muddy water. And so when we're giving things out to the world, I don't want it to be muddy. And that requires me to purify every day. And that's really hard because you're constantly interacting with the mud. And so you're constantly getting dirty and you're constantly getting messy. And so it's how do you keep doing that? There's this beautiful conversation between a student and the Buddha. And the student said to the Buddha, "What did you gain from meditation?" And the Buddha said, "I gained nothing." So the student said, "Then why do you do it every day?" And the Buddha said, "It's because of what I lost." And the Buddha said, "I lost anger, I lost ego, I lost jealousy. That's why I meditate." And I love that story because you become successful by what you get, but you become happy by what you lose. And so you can have money and be happy if you don't have envy. But if you have money and envy, then your life is insecure. You can have stuff and be happy if you don't have ego. But if you have stuff and you have ego, then you alienate yourself and you're lonely because no one likes you. And so it's not the having of a successful business, your passion project, a family, a home, of your dreams that makes you happy. That makes you successful. What makes you happy is not having all these other things with it. And so I find myself constantly working on that inner world because at every different level, there's a more subtle thing to break through. And you've gotten over the first one, but then there's another cycle of it because every lesson is not different. It's just deeper and harder. And so I'm constantly working on how can I become more free of jealousy and envy, more free of ego, more free of stress and anger of whatever that looks like. I'm not an angry person, but I think anger can fester in different ways, frustration, bitterness, whatever it may be. I'm constantly trying to work on that because I think if I let go of that, then everything else won't satisfy me. But if I work on that, then everything will fulfill me. So yeah, I hope that's
Oh
where
my
that's where it
gosh.
went.
I think you just changed my life with that answer. So
No, I appreciate you even taking the time to check in and answer that so honestly.
Well, you guys are so present, right? From the moment you were both walked in, you're both so present. And so you can't just, some questions I can answer because it's top of mind or whatever. But if you're asking such a deep question, I think I have to honor both of your presence and energy too, because it's unfair to give you a surface level answer or a quick answer, an answer that makes sense, but maybe isn't really what I'm toggling with. But yeah, this is the stuff I really think about. So thanks for pushing me to go there. I appreciate it.
thank you for going there.
And you're both so patient as well. So it's
Oh
nice.
my gosh. No, I mean, you really just changed my life with that answer because I think in this external world, everyone cares about what you have. And when we gain more success, it feels like it is this constant ladder towards having more. But if you don't lose the bad stuff, if you don't work through and do that true inner work and lose that envy and that jealousy and that ego, whatever you mask on top of it, no matter how many designer bags or cars or homes you get, if you're still carrying that, then what is the purpose? And that, I think, could cure so much of humanity right now. So you really going there with that question just opened up so many questions that I want to sit with myself on, and I can't wait to continue this conversation.
Definitely. And you said it better than me just now, so I'm like, just going to let that sit there. You said that so well.
Shetty,
You
stop
did.
it.
No, but you did, because it's and I want to clarify, because I think the problem is the rhetoric for so long has been money doesn't buy happiness.
Mhm.
And I'm tired of that rhetoric, because what it basically does is it makes money evil and it makes happiness and money opposites. And my point is, it's actually the wrong equation. You're measuring the two wrong things against each other. Happiness is inner work and success is external work. And happiness is by losing despite what you have. And that's why people who have not a lot can be happy, and that's why people who have a lot can be happy. So just want to clarify that, because I think there's so much demonizing around ambition and success, especially in conscious spiritual circles.
Yeah.
And I used to be someone who didn't demonize it, but didn't believe it was possible. But I see abundance and success as being two very parallel worlds. And I just think there needs to be that healthier conversation around, it's not about what I have or don't have, it's about what I lose.
Yeah.
And that's going to solve the puzzle, rather than I've got to go climb that next mountain, or now that I sold my company for $1 billion, I've got to build a $10 billion company, or now that I've quit my job and got promoted, I need to build a family in order to be happy. And it's like, well, no, you could do all those things and still be insecure, egotistical, envious, jealous, and everything else. And then you're left with all of these wonderful things that you can't appreciate.
I feel like I'm thinking of our community so much when you're speaking right now, and the questions that just come through for Sam and I and you being here. And I feel like one of them that I would love to hear, because we get this so much of, and of course I've experienced too, is comparison. Is in the world of such external, and we have, of course, social media and we see everything. And I love how you always say you haven't seen the full book of everyone's life. You're only seeing a certain chapter, and you have to remember, you probably said it again more beautifully, but you have to see the past and remember there's been so much build up to get to that beautiful point that you're highlighting that they're in, or maybe you're envious of. So what is a beautiful way that you practice looking at your peers as someone maybe that is inspiring instead of going to comparison?
Comparing is a habit that I always say to someone, if you're going to compare, which it's hard to stop doing, get really good at comparing. Compare everything. Compare that person's day one, their chapter one. Compare the fact that, do you know that they just called their mum who has an illness? Did you know that they got fired from their second job? Did you know that they are going through a divorce? Did you know that one of their kids is stuck in rehab? Like, whatever it is. Like, if you're going to compare everything. Because all of a sudden, you're like, I don't want to compare anymore. Because you start to realize there's just so much more. And so we are usually comparing our chapter 1 to someone's chapter 20. And when you're comparing those two things, they just don't make sense. Whereas if you looked at that person's chapter 1, it probably looks exactly the same as yours. Like, you guys are building an incredible wellness and fitness company right now. And it's like, and you are growing so fast, and you're doing amazingly well, and it's beautiful to watch. But I know that day one wasn't as, I know now's not easy, but I know day one was never easier than, I say this to my friends all the time, I work harder today than I did 10 years ago, even though it should be, you'd think it's the other way around. But that's because you love it, you believe it, you work harder because there's more responsibility, there's more people. And so I think if you really study, and that's the real opposite. The opposite of jealousy is not appreciation. The opposite of jealousy is study. The opposite of envy is study. If you study someone's life, you can actually appreciate it. But if you don't study someone's life, you'll always be jealous of it. So when you actually start looking at rep 1, day 1, rep 2, day 2, you go, oh, wait a minute, our journeys are actually the same. But when you only look at the journey that that person's living now, of course it seems like it was easy. And so I always say to people, like, I started doing this nearly 20 years ago now, and my online career only took off 9 years ago. So for the 10 years before that, I used to speak in rooms this big. And I remember turning up to the first talk I ever gave in a room this big, and no one showed up. And so I practiced my speech to the 4 walls and walked out. And I was there for like 2 hours practicing. Came back a week later to that same venue. No one turned up. So I practiced again. And then I realized I had to fire the person who was putting the flyers up, because that's what it was. There's no social media back then. We were actually sticking up flyers and stuff like that, handing out, leaflets. Leaflets, oh my gosh, that word. But like that was it, right? Like that's how you marketed what you did. And so I've spent years in rooms this size with 0, 3, 5, 10 people. I remember that. I know what that's like. I loved it. I never ever saw that as less than. I never saw that as this isn't good enough. It's not big enough. I saw it as the greatest gift of my life that 5 or 10 people would show up to hear me speak. And today when I'm going on tour and lucky enough to travel the world and all the rest of it, I always remind myself that that's where I started. And sometimes when I look out into the audience, I think of that room, because that room takes me back to how I want to feel about what I'm doing, because there was a feeling I had then that made all of this possible and special. And so study everyone's day 1. Like just stop studying everyone's day 20 and day 200 and day 7 years or whatever it may be. And it's almost like we forget how many businesses have failed, how many ventures have failed, how many Instagram pages have failed. And really what we're saying is we're not scared of starting at 0. We're scared of people watching us start at 0. We're not scared of starting from scratch. We're scared of people watching us start from scratch. And therefore we're looking at someone who's, if someone looked at just being really tactical and being tactical and practical about it. If someone sees what we post at this stage in our life, we have custom made content for every platform. I did not do that on day 1. So if you look to me now and we're like, how do you do that? How do I do that? It's like, well, you're never going to do it. It's not possible. It's just not possible, because when I started, I edited every video, I uploaded every video, all the stuff. And so even as something as basic as that, that's not even energetic or emotional. If you're comparing yourself to someone who's, 10 years ahead of you, you're always going to feel envious and jealous. It's natural. I do too. And so I always remind myself also of how far away those years are. Like I look at some people I admire and I'm like, they're 30 years older than me. I've got 30 years. I've got 3 decades. Like, and older is an age. Older is when they started. I always like to remind people of that, because I think today we're living in an age where it's like, well, we're both 30. Why am I not a millionaire? Or why am I not this? And it's like, well, no. When did they start? Because that person, like Mr. B, started at like 12 years old. And so if he's like 26 right now and killing it online, it's because he started at 12. Like he's already got 14 years in the game at 26 years old, which is insane.
Such an important reminder. I love this sense of self-awareness. And when I've started to become more aware of myself, I've become really attuned to living on purpose and figuring out my own alignment. And I love when you speak to your thoughts, words, and actions being aligned. And I can think of a million examples of when my thoughts do not match my words and those do not match my actions. And I'll give a really, I think, relatable example. I always say I'm family first. That's how I was raised. That's how I'm always going to be. But my actions are working a lot, a lot. And I know for anyone listening that there's going to be some misaligned priorities in our lives. How can we match those thoughts to our words, to our actions, and live more on purpose?
Thanks for that beautiful example as well, because it's so true. We all judge ourselves by our intentions, and that's where your heart is.
Yeah.
But your feet and your head can't always be where your heart are. And that's real. That's like honest. And I think your words, I think your thoughts, words, and actions start to match when you're honest with yourself. How do I spend my time and money tells me so much more about who I am than what I think I am. And we should just start being honest with that. I think we have disconnection when we're dishonest. We have misalignment when we're dishonest. I have found at this point in my life, I'm trying to give myself permission to be all of myself, as opposed to what my perception is of my highest self. And when I say that, I don't mean emotionally, I mean in likes and dislikes. Like, I absolutely love, this is just me just geeking out on my own passions, but I absolutely love interior design. I love fashion. There's so many things I love that don't align maybe externally with what I teach and share. But to me, they align because they're all about intentionality. To me, the space I wake up in designs how I feel in the morning. And so I'm in love with all of these things. But if I try and say, no, I'm just going to be mindful internally, it doesn't matter. That's who I am. I'm just going to be mindful. That's who I am. I don't need to. All of a sudden, I'm disconnecting, and now I'm being dishonest, and now I'm leaving parts of me behind. So if you start to say, no, I have to be a family person, like, what am I doing putting work first? You can actually be more misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you were able to say, well, I actually spend all of my free time with my family, that is aligned. And I spend all the time at work, and that is aligned. Now you're actually finding and giving yourself permission to bring all the pieces together rather than create the stress and friction that comes from that lack of alignment. So be more honest about your actions. Check in with yourself and ask yourself, am I spending my money time where I want to? If I'm not, then let me shift them and be honest. If actually my money and time show what I really care about, then let me just lean into that and be okay with it. I don't need to make myself feel guilty or bad. I was just saying to my therapist this morning, I said, I've always aspired to be the saint and the sage. But really my archetype is I'm the warrior. I'm on the battlefield. And I know that's where I belong and it's where I thrive. But in my heart of hearts, I've always wanted to be the monk and the sage. And I have to accept that in this lifetime, what's called of me is to be the warrior. And I can always have this beautiful aspiration. I can always attempt to be that way. But my archetype, my reason for being, my purpose is to be where I am right now.
When did you identify that?
I think I identified it when I was leaving the monastery, because that's what made me leave, is that the people that stayed for decades were just natural sages. And I wasn't. I didn't fit in. I was rebellious. I was independent. I had my own ideas. I'm who I am today. And that's okay. And I had to learn to give myself permission to be that, because I too thought there was a hierarchy of success and purpose. And then I realized there was no hierarchy. It was just who you were and where you were meant to be. And that was perfect. And the more you were able to say, I am here for this, and this is who I am, you actually appreciate where people are and what they do. I can actually love my teachers more. I can respect people with different talents more. I can appreciate other people who have different abilities more, because I realize I'm doing my thing and they're doing theirs, and neither's better or worse or bigger or less than. I wasn't born to be a soccer player or a musician or a whatever, and that's okay. Like, that's not making me less than. It's not like I settled. You know, it's like The Rock was meant to be an American football player, but he's an actor. It's like, did he settle? Or, you know, and sometimes it's your second dream that ends up being the dream that's fulfilled for a lot of people. And so don't make your second dream feel second. You know, feel aligned in allowing it to be all of yourself.
I feel like you used a word, permission. And I feel like giving ourselves the permission, sometimes it's just us that needs to, or most of the time, it's just us that needs to give that permission to be exactly who we are, be exactly where we're at. And I feel like that's a word that I see in my life again and again. It's just, Samantha, giving yourself that permission.
I love that. Yeah, it's exposure for other people. So you get more confident, and then you expose people to a little bit of it. So, you know, about a fun example is, let's compare exposing a part of who you are as wearing an item of clothing, just to make it more visible. So I want to share more of who I am. So I'm going to wear a red hat. And then tomorrow I'll wear a red t-shirt because I like color, but I've been wearing black my whole life. I've been wearing black my whole life, and everyone thinks I'm always going to wear black. But I wore a red hat, and everyone went, that's weird. Why are you wearing a red hat? You always wear black. And then tomorrow you wore a red t-shirt, and they went, wait a minute, you're wearing a red t-shirt now too. Why are you doing that? You always wear black. And then by the time you wear red pants, everyone's forgotten. because you've slowly given them an exposure to who you really are, and then you get to be that person. And I think it's that putting on the red hat, the red cap in the first place is the hardest part. And the harder part, as you're saying, is giving yourself permission to say, that's who I really want to be. And permission only comes from accepting that everyone is more than what we think they are and what they say they are. And you realize that everyone's holding themselves back by having to pick one title or one identifier or one job, or, you know, imagine if your whole identity was, I'm a social media manager. That's not everything about you, but that's what we've made it today. And so I think too many people are limited by their titles and their jobs and everything else. And it's like, before, you used to be a farmer and a storyteller. You'd be a mother and a nurse. You'd be you'd be so many things. And society's become very much, since the Industrial Revolution, become very much like, this is your job, this is your role, this is who you are, this is how you stack up in society, because that's how roles were divided. Before, we didn't look at a job as less than or more than. Teachers were as important as farmers, and farmers were as important as nurses, and nurses were as important. You know, you saw it as a community, and I think that's what we need to get back to, is we're all so much more than we are, and we're all so much better when we have each other.
Should we do our...
Yeah.
You're amazing.
No, you guys, no, come on, you guys are the best.
So
I'm like trying to make sure I'm not letting you down. I'm like,
oh
in
my
head.
God.
I'm totally in my
I'm
head.
like, I can't wait to re-listen to
Jay,
this again.
No, I mean, just while we're on the mic right now, thank you for being you.
Yeah.
And we're not done yet. We have some fun.
Let's do it.
We don't want to call them rapid fire because they definitely have soul and they go there. But just thank you for your heart, for your brain, for doing the work so that we get to learn. I loved your analogy of, you know, some days we're in school and some days we're at the hospital or on the mountain or watching the movie. And to be able to feel like a student to you is such a gift. And you are such a teacher. And yes, you are that warrior, but you are also such a teacher to so many. And a question that we have for you is, what has been a question that you've actually been asking yourself, or maybe a practice that you've been introducing to yourself that is leading you to new bounds and new growth?
That's so nice. Question or a practice?
Something as silly as like baking sourdough, or
Oh,
maybe
God.
some like existential, you know?
Yeah, everything's existential in my life.
I know, me
Radhi's
too.
the baking sourdough and I'm
Right.
existential. That's
I
our
know.
balance. It's like,
Yes, it's beautiful.
it's the playful and everything's it too. I take life way too seriously, and Radhi doesn't take life seriously at all. So,
That's the
Yeah.
best.
yeah, that's how it works well. What has been my practice or habit or question that I've been doing recently that... Mine is, what would I do differently if I trusted myself 10% more? What would I do differently if I trusted myself a little more? How would I operate in the world? How would I reach out to people? How would I connect? How would I communicate if I trusted myself 10% more? I actually think most of our lives would speed up. We'd actually move at the pace we wanted to if we trusted ourselves more. It's not busyness, it's trust. If you trusted yourself, you'd make decisions faster. You'd know where you were. You'd know where you're at. You'd know who you want in your life. You'd know how to pick who you kept close and who wasn't close. That would speed up life. But we're trying to speed up life by being productive and busy and effective. The number one productivity tool is trusting yourself, because you'd be so much more productive if you trusted yourself. But we don't. We doubt ourselves. We question ourselves. We check ourselves. We check with 1 million people. We crowdsource what we should wear, to whether we should quit our jobs, to whether we should apply for something. And that slows life down and it takes away that energy and trust. And so what would I do differently if I trusted myself 10% more? It's a fun one.
I love that.
Yeah.
Definitely stealing that one as well. Cannot wait to add this to the journal prompts of the day. Jay, you obviously interview so many amazing people on your podcast on purpose, and even speak to so many amazing people. What is something recently that you are learning from someone that you've interviewed, or that you learned?
Yeah, I think for me, I have to, because it's so recent for me, we just had Benny and Selena on.
Oh my gosh.
And
So
I have
good.
to talk about it, because what I loved about it was usually when something, and we don't do it this way around, but usually when something celebrity goes viral, it's always some sort of like scandal or gossip or whatever it may be. And my favorite thing was everyone was watching this interview and was talking about positive masculinity and emotional intelligence and waiting for what you deserve and connection. And I love that that was the conversation that came out of it. Like every post I saw online from people posting TikToks to Instagrams to whatever was just emotional intelligence, resilience, connection, honesty. And it wasn't couples goals, relationship goals in this surface way. It was raw, real, honest, what it actually takes. And so I think I learned, and I love being reminded of this, that the world does want healthy, mature, emotionally intelligent love. But what gets broadcasted across the world is the opposite. You look at the news, you look at the clickbait, it's all the opposite stories. Cheating, divorce, breakups, all being negatively portrayed, not being portrayed in a healthy way. And I was just so happy to be reminded that people do want healthier, mature, natural, emotionally intelligent conversations and love to go viral and to connect with that, because that's why I started doing what I did, to prove that conscious content could get the same views, if not more, than clickbait content. And it was just the latest reminder in that. And to see, to see people change their view about, and Benny's a good friend of mine, so I can say this, but for people to see people change their view about someone, and just how much I like that people are calling themselves out saying, oh, I judged too soon. And I'm like, yeah, like this is just another reminder of like, be kinder to yourself and others, like don't judge others, like, it's not worth it, but we need that. So I think that's what I learned from it. Not necessarily learning like a principle or a tool, but learning just that the world is so much smarter if we let it be. The world is wiser if we let it be. The world is healthier if we let it be. And you both are such beautiful examples of that, because your whole platform is built off of that, making people better inside and outside. You're not using any gimmicks to do it, not using any clickbait to do it, not using any surface level content to do it. It's all real and you're doing it. And so, yeah, that's probably the best. But then I'm waiting for you both to come on the show too. So I haven't learned from you both yet. So we're waiting for that.
Yeah. I do have to say, I FaceTimed Andrew this morning because I finally just finished the Selena and Benny episode. And I go, babe, you've got some Benny in you. Like it's being used as this like metaphor adjective now. Like we need to protect Benny at all costs. Oh my gosh, him and his heart.
Yeah.
And wow, thank goodness you put him on such a beautiful platform to get that
it's
recognition.
It's all him and his mom and his parenting and everything else.
Oh,
yeah, it's
my
all
gosh. Another fun question for you. What does inner peace feel like to you?
Wow. Don't think I've been asked that before. Inner peace to me is not expecting from someone something they can't give me. And so it feels like not expecting someone to love me the way I love them, because that's my job. Not expecting someone to hurt me and then heal me, because that's my job. Not expecting someone to fill in all the missing pieces for me to feel whole, because that's my job. Peace is accepting that. And it feels like I know that. The knowing that I am everything I'm looking for. I am everything that I want. I am everything that I desire. I am everything that I could ever ask for already. And that's peace. And that I already have it within me, whether it's with God, the universe, it's already there. And that's what peace feels like, is I know that even when everything outside of me reminds me that I'm not. And that's what I turn to in those times. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that's a perfect place to end this conversation, that we could probably talk for. We were like talking about, should we do 3 hours? Like, how long should we go?
Shetty.
Yeah. Usually ours are like 30 minutes.
Oh,
but
no way. Oh, my
we
gosh.
know that you're going on tour, Jay. So we want everyone, because this episode actually will be coming out next week. So they can buy tickets, all that, to you being on tour for the first time, right?
Yes. This is the first time I'm doing a podcast tour. So I went on my world tour 2 years ago, but that was for 8 Rules of Love, my book. This is a podcast tour, and everyone's like, what does that mean? It means I'm doing live interviews on stage. We've got 15 surprise guests in 15 cities. It's going to be the conversations that you listen to on your walks and your commutes from work, but in person. And my favorite thing about this is we're losing places of value today, or places where we gather for the same reason. And I'm writing about this right now for my next book, and it's this idea called the third space theory. It's this idea that 50 years ago, we had three spaces we spent time in. There was church or temple or some sort of community space, and work and home. And then as time went on, that disappeared and we had work and home. And then because of the pandemic, it all became home. And so now we spend all our time in one space. And the point of the third space was you could look back on your other two spaces and think, I haven't been a great husband this week. Maybe I could be better. Maybe I could be kinder at work. That third space was a space of being able to reflect. And I think podcasts have become that space. I think gyms have become that space. I think there are these new evolutions of what that space looks like. But I'm just so excited for thousands of people to be in that space together. And you're doing it every week anyway, and every day anyway. How amazing will it be to be in person? So in LA, we're at the Greek Theatre, which I love as a venue. So any of your audience that listens in LA, please come and join us there. You might be joining me
in
New York
If
or
anyone
Philly.
wants to join us for the Philly show.
Yeah, that would
right
be
after
awesome
New York
to have you there.
pop-up.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
super
so I'm so excited about that. We're doing, it's going to be wisdom, insight, advice that we've never shared before, and really trying to build an energy in the room of connection and, connection and community. So really excited.
So amazing. I cannot wait for the Philly show. And Jay, we just need to thank you from the depths of our hearts, the amount of gratitude that we have for you and the gifts that you give, not only us, this community, the world. You are, again, such a warrior, but you are also changing people's lives. And I just hope you know how proud you should be of yourself, because my goodness, we are all better because of you.
Oh, you guys are the best. And the best thing is watching people who say that about you do that for millions of other people. So I can't take any credit. You both are special beings, and I'm glad I could be a little part of your journey, but it's amazing to watch you do it for so many other people. And I can't wait to keep following you and keep doing this and do the 3 hours afterwards as well.
Yeah,
So,
stay tuned for that.
Yeah, you guys are the best.
Thank you,
so
Jay.
much.
Thank you so much,
You guys are so
Jay.
wonderful. That was beautiful. Thank you.